With me for another edition of QB1 is the elite level quarterback expert, Crissy Froyd, to talk Florida signal caller Anthony Richardson. Crissy, how surprising was it to see Richardson overtake Emory Jones last season?
I think for a while they really were neck and neck. They do have some similarities just overall when it comes to the athleticism. They're more athletic quarterbacks. I think both of them need to improve a little bit as a passer, but I think you go into the season, you see the way that Jones struggles as a passer, and then just how fast a newer, lesser experienced quarterback like Richardson is showing development, which he still does need some more of, but just his unreal level of athletic talent. It's obvious to see just how high his ceiling is here. And so, no, it wasn't really surprising to see it happen. It's not surprising that he's the guy that we're anticipating Florida will roll with all season and possibly for years to come, depending on when he declares for the draft and how that whole thing goes down. But he's got more upside overall than Jones does. And I think that became evident to Florida. I mean, obviously, based on their decision making at quarterback.
Talk to me about that upside that you mentioned. Like, what does this season hold for him in terms of, especially what he had a whole offseason, look likely being the starting quarterback, all these kinds of things, the experience last season. What is his potential for this season?
This isn't really a prove it year for Anthony Richardson, but in a way it is, just in terms of, is this guy as good as he's been made out to be? Just the way he caught so much attention last year. What we saw was a very small sample size. I think that's something that people kind of forget sometimes. And despite his success on the ground, this is a quarterback with some room to grow throwing the football. He completed just under 60% of his passes for 529 yards with 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions to go with over 400 rushing yards, 3 scores on the ground. So that kind of just in a little statistical snapshot kind of shows you what quarterback this is. This is someone who is more of an athletic guy who still needs more experience. And I think that just showcases that. And I think that he's got some room to grow, but that he's in good hands to do just that.
Considering all his potential, taking on this role last season and stepping ahead of expectation possibly, what would you say there is, maybe he's getting too much hype too early in his college football career?
I mean, I would say it's just a little bit much. Don't get me wrong. He's an exciting prospect who Florida fans have had a glimpse into something potentially to be really excited about this year. And a lot of people are already pinning him as a first-round selection in the 2023 NFL draft. I personally just want to see more. I don't like to make snap judgments on quarterbacks based on just a handful of games from one season. So if he makes a really notable jump as a passer and then develops on time with that to accompany that athleticism, I think this is a quarterback who's going to be really electric, that's going to add a lot to the Florida offense, and will be potentially someone who could go early on in the draft whenever he does choose to declare.
And you mentioned that possibility of being a first-round pick. Are there things he needs to work on that are specific that scouts in the NFL want, coaches in the NFL want? What does he need to work on specifically to make himself NFL ready?
Yeah, it's kind of like the rookie growing pains, except it's a lesser experienced quarterback who doesn't have a lot of games under his belt. So I think we want to watch the game slow down for him a little bit. There's a couple wonky decisions, and they're just a small handful of those that he needs to brush up on. Just the kind of things that a quarterback has to go through and experience whenever he's really, just for lack of better terms, starting to gain more experience. So I think just the way that he progresses this season is going to tell us a lot about where he is, about where exactly he needs to fine tune some things. But I think that there's a lot of optimism there.